Hey guys, how are you guys doing?
Great.
Awesome. We have a special guest today. So it's Angela and me. Tracy had some errands and some things that she had to do. So we have a beautiful guest, JulieAnn, who popped on the last minute for us. JulieAnn Chavez owns the Chavez. I thought I said it better. Chavez owns the Quilting Nerd in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Why don't you take over and introduce yourself, hon?
Okay, my name is JulieAnn, as Kathy says, and that's her name sign, Kathy. And then Angela's name sign is Angela because of angel in her name. So it's Angela and Kathy.
Aww.
Kathy got this because she always did this when she was here teaching our class. So that stuck with me. So I gave her that name as Kathy. But anyway, back to myself. JulieAnn, I'm the owner of the Quilting Nerd, and that is the sign, Quilting Nerd. And I've been a long armor since 2018. I enjoy what I do. What I really enjoy is looking at everybody's beautiful work of art with their quilts. And that's about it.
Well, you sell long arms.
And I sell long arms. Mm-hmm. And I also teach class. So.
Perfect. Yeah. That's just what I was going to say. But the beautiful thing about JulieAnn is just, I went down, I had like she said, had the fortunate opportunity of going down to Little Rock. My husband went with me. We had a great time and teaching out her house. And I love her quilt that's in the background back there because you designed that one, didn't you?
Oh, the one with the I love you with the hearts? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Perfect. So I love the fact that we have all of these quilters in the world. We've talked about many quilters and many different types of quilters. We have not talked about the hearing impaired at all. So I would love to be able to talk about what some of the challenges, some of the joys are, JulieAnn, that you run across.
Yeah, as a person who is deaf, I am profoundly deaf. And that may shock you because I've been told I have beautiful speech. And that is all thanks to 12 years of speech therapy. And growing up, I had it from kindergarten to 12th grade. And I only went to speech therapy just for the peanut butter exercises. And that's the only reason why I would go, because otherwise I would avoid it at all possible. And that's where I also learned how to lip read. I have a 99% accuracy in lip reading. So if you are talking and you don't want me to know what you're discussing, all you need to do is just cover your mouth and I won't even know what you're talking about. One of the challenges is when I speak with people, they may have an accent or they talk a little soft or they have thick mustache and a beard. It's really difficult for me to understand. So how do I handle the communication from that point is I will ask them to speak in my iPhone and it will caption for me. You can do it through Siri. You can do it through an iPhone app that provides captioning. Or they can just write. Mm-hmm. And so, and I just have them look right at me as we, discuss quilts. A lot of people have said, well, you're deaf, you're not able to do anything. No, we can do anything you can do. The only thing we can't do is can't hear. That's it. We live normal lives. I am married, 37 and a half years now. Yeah. We have two beautiful boys, ages 33 and 30. And we have a beautiful granddaughter. We have a family just like anyone else. I'm running a business and my husband works as a building maintenance and we're both deaf. So we live our lives just like anyone. when it comes to having clients, I inform them right away that I am deaf and I just need them to look at me. And we do our communication that way, unless, like I said earlier, we have trouble is writing or through speech to text on the iPhone. The other thing is when it comes to working with the machines, I know that machines have sounds, but I don't hear it. I don't hear the machine running. I don't hear the like the low bobbin indicator where it beeps, and that we are very visual. Like I can read everybody's lips. I got to see what's going on with my machine. So we watch everything on the machine. I'll see it come down low and I'll stop and then kind of check. And usually by then I'm like playing fried chicken that it's almost done. If there is a problem with the machine, because I'm so used with the vibration as it's running, if it's off, I will feel it, not only through my hands, but I feel it through my whole body and my feet, that something's not right. And then I'll go check and go through the whole line of everything to see what's going on. So that's how I do that. One thing I could tell you is that if you receive a request from a quilter who is deaf, don't panic. Just accept them. Have them come in. It's okay to ask questions. Like how can you communicate? What is your preference? Most of the time is through iPhone or through writing. If you're curious about their disability, it's okay to ask questions. We would prefer that you ask us because we'll be able to share our experiences with you. And that, so, I mean, we're just our normal day-to-day people, just like everyone else.
So I guess one of my questions would be how predominant is the deaf community in the quilting world?
Much to my surprise, there is a huge group of deaf quilters. Everywhere you go, there are deaf quilters, and we even have deaf quilting retreats. And it's not in every state, but there are many throughout the country. Many.
Yeah. Wow. That's a pretty cool thing to know, because it's probably not talked about.
Right.
Or we're not in the community either. So, I mean, that's part of it, right? I mean, I feel the quilting community is misunderstood in general. Yeah. But I feel, I mean, even that I can lose track of like your community as well, being in the quilting community.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know we have several customers that are deaf. As far as APQS knows that they do. I know that we've gotten at least one has been sent to Julia so she can help them or help her. We have a lady in Canada, and much to my shock, I didn't realize that there's different sign languages. I knew that there was a different sign language in like Great Britain than there was in the US. For some reason, I didn't realize that there was Canadian sign language too. So there's some big hurdles there just within your community without, Yeah,
because there is one gal that I've been working with that's from Canada as well, that's deaf. Her signs and my signs are very similar, but there are some I was just like, what is that? And then she'll tell me, she'll spell it out. And she asks me the same thing, and she's like, what's that sign? So we're learning from each other. And when we go to Jamaica, there are staff that signs, but they sign in British Sign Language. And so, some of the signs are similar, and there are some that are just like, what was that? So, yeah.
Well, just in normal language, sometimes I can, we were just talking, there's a lot of our fellow new APQS people back at training. And one lady's from Canada, and there's a family that's also there from Tennessee. And we were kind of halfway joking about, she's like, yeah, she said that the lady in Canada, and her name is Jenny, was like, yes, the people in Tennessee say they have mountains. And she's from Alberta. I'm like, I know, I miss my Rocky Mountains. And I'm like, those are not mountains in Tennessee, but that's okay. They can call them mountains. We have people here in Nebraska that call this hilly. And I'm like, no.
I live on the other side of those mountains. They're small mountains, but they are mountains. They're not hills. They're still craggy at the top.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, it's all relative.
Yeah.
Well, and where JulieAnn, it was the most incredible drive from, oh my gosh, what's the resort? Branson over to your house. Oh my gosh, beautiful drive. Beautiful, beautiful. So,
Especially in the fall. Yeah.
That's where we were, the fall.
Yeah.
So that was fun. What do you think we could definitely help the community, the deaf community, grow with their quilting skills?
One thing that is a huge hurdle is accessible classes. You know, the cost of interpreting is very expensive, yes, but it is worth it. When you have a group of deaf that want to learn quilting or even long arming, and to have that communication is really important because, you know, you can show them, but then the instructor may be talking and they're missing out all the little bits and pieces of what's being taught verbally. And, you know, they're getting what's being shown, but verbally they're missing a lot of information, critical information. So it would be best like if there was maybe some videos in ASL that may show that has to be very detailed with, you know, like images and caption and signing. Now with the deaf community, there are those whose first language is ASL, which is American Sign Language. So ASL is their primary language. English may be their second. And yes, they are two separate language. Many people would think not, but it is really different because in ASL, the word order and the syntax is very different than your English language. So for example, in English, we say, I go to the store. I'm going to the store. That's English. But in ASL, it's store I go. So it will be very different. So it's always good to have an ASL person or on video. You know, writing may not be, their English reading may not be as strong as, you know, their watching of ASL language being signed to them.
Wow, that's very cool. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Are you finding with the growing of YouTube and the video phone obviously a big help for you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I am teaching 2 private classes through FaceTime and ASL to persons who are new at quilting. The YouTube, I am getting more requests. They've been bugging me to develop more YouTube in ASL. They want more. And so that is something that I really need to focus on. So YouTube, they're begging for more because really, I've looked, there is not, much out there for the deaf and hard of hearing community and ASL for quilting at all. So yeah, and that's my focus for this year.
Oh, good focus. Make sure we can help you. That's what we want to do. That's why we're glad you're here.
And I would love the help.
Well, I think we have some great things coming in the future. So I see lots of us doing some great collaborations together.
Yeah, collaboration.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I also think it's really important if you're a video content creator in this industry that you do closed captioning. Because I see a lot of video content creators that are not enabling that on their Facebook group, or not Facebook, but on their YouTube sites. And there are people like JulieAnn who are deaf. There are also people that are hard of hearing,
Right,
and have lost hearing over, periods of time, that don't necessarily understand what you're saying. And it may be your accent. It could be, how loud you speak, how well you enunciate, right? But if we're out there teaching, we need to make sure that we're accessible to as many people as we can be. So, slowing down how fast I talk, making sure that I have closed captioning enabled on all my videos. It's really, really important, so that you're accessible to more people.
right. And that is the one thing that I always do with my YouTubes is not only do I sign and I speak, but I include the caption.
Yeah.
Because there are people who may be hard of hearing, but not, fluent in ASL. So they'll be relying on caption. So, yeah. And I mean, this would be helpful for anyone, really, not just the hard of hearing community.
Right. My children with their babies watch everything with captions on now. And so finally, I think Doug and I did that when we were watching Peaky Blinders. So it's very hard Scottish accent. And I got half of it. We turned on the captions. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And you'll find that your grandbabies will be reading early. My boys were very early readers because of caption. Yeah. They were reading at age 3, 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of babies nowadays are learning sign language before they can speak. So I know the twins could tell us they wanted juice or they wanted milk, or, could say thank you and please well before they could actually talk. So I think that's great too. I think it's something that we need to continue and have them continue to learn it right along with learning their speaking language too, if they're able to do that. But a lot of parents are starting out kids really, really young with sign language. I would love to have seen it last longer with the twins. They're 13 now, right? By the time they could talk, they weren't using sign language anymore.
Right. One of my favorite memories of my granddaughter, Claire, who's 6 now. We had her and she wasn't even a year yet. And thank goodness I went to a junior high school with the hearing impaired and I learned sign language way back in the day. So I know the alphabet now. That's all I know. But my Claire, we were sitting eating dinner and she went, and I'm like, that she just said her first sentence. He goes, what? And she went,
yeah.
More food, please.
Please. Yeah.
That's cute.
It was adorable.
And I love seeing those little hands signing.
Oh, yes. And I like, Doug, she just talked to me. And he goes, when?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she was definitely communicating with you. And it says a lot that, I mean, kids can communicate through sign that young, right? Before they can actually form words, they can communicate with you. It's not just, you can tell sometimes what they want when they're crying and things like that. But if they've learned sign language as babies, they're communicating before they can talk, right? So to me, that's amazing.
My twins talk to each other with facial expressions. So when they were just walking around, barely walking around. So they're like 13, 14 months old. And I took them to the Children's Museum. And I had one twin over here, but Lily was at the slide and this kid came down the slide and Lily walked up to him and went, and I'm like, pretty girl, he does not understand you. Gracie will, not him. So it was so amazing just to see that there's communication everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Shoulder positions, how we stand, how we are open to everybody.
Yeah.
So.
And also, with the deaf and hard of hearing, and same with the community altogether is we rely on reading your facial expressions, your body language, and you can say something nice, but your face may be telling a different story. Your body language is telling a different story. And oh yeah, we can tell.
Right. One of my favorite news segments was actually having somebody come on to read the body language of somebody talking. He really doesn't mean what he's saying. See where he's fidgeting? No.
See, he's got his arms crossed, and yeah, he's not open to that idea at all.
Yeah. Like for example, for people out there that may not understand what we're trying to say is, like if I'm sick, I would say I'm really sick. You got to do it with emotion. You wouldn't say I'm sick, that doesn't match. And so,
right.
all of that comes to play with the facial expression, body language, and your tone of voice, all of that's together.
I saw one of the perfect memes the other day. I don't need a mood ring. I have a face. That is so me. Everything's right here.
Yeah. One little story to share, like you were sharing about your twins, is my oldest son. Both of my boys were always protective of mom and dad because we were deaf. And I was a stay-at-home mom for several years. And I went food shopping, and we were standing in line, and someone was saying something to me, and I didn't understand, but I could tell that the cashier was looking at me like, there's a problem. And I could look around and I see other people looking at me, and I thought, what was going on? And I didn't have my hearing aid on that day. And so finally, people started laughing. And I was like, what's so funny? And the woman said, you didn't hear? The cashier said, you didn't hear? And I'm like, no. She said, your son stood up for you. And he was only 4. And apparently what happened was that someone was saying, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me in the line. And I didn't respond. And finally the woman got upset and said, what are you, deaf? And then JJ, my oldest, turned around and said, yes, she is. And the woman went from being, to being like this and left the line because she was embarrassed. And so, my son schooled her.
At 4.
At 4. Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many I could tell, but we'll leave that for another time.
Well, I do have to admit, the one you told me about when we were down there just made me giggle because I still have teenagers at home, and they, you're about your boys having friends over, and you didn't.
Yes, what happened with that is, our house, I guess you could say, was the Grand Central Station when we used to live in Illinois. And they would always come, they would have sleepovers, and they would be awake all night knowing that me and Jim can't hear. When we go to bed, our ears are off. Well, little did they realize that our dog, who was a black lab, Molly, would come up and wake us up because they are being rowdy downstairs in the basement. And we would come downstairs and they would be, we were being loud, like they were floored. And so, and I said, well, Molly told me. Molly! So, yeah, things that these kids used to do when mom and dad were sleeping and if they had friends over. Oh, yeah. I got some of the stories, and my hair must have turned gray when they would tell us what they would do. And I was like, you did what? They waited till now to share that. Yeah.
My sister and I waited until we couldn't be grounded. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I know. I had this really weird situation. This one young man that my daughter was dating, she's off to college, and she calls me and say, hey, did you know they did this, this, and this? And I'm like, okay. She goes, I guess you don't care. And I'm like, she's in college. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I mean, I did call my daughter first, and I said, so listen, you have like 30 seconds to tell your truth and nothing but the truth. And then, I can't do anything about it. So I'm not going to do anything about it. I just want you to be honest. And she was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything bad. It's normal kid stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So what brought you to long arming, JulieAnn?
Well, I was making quilts and I would be taking them to the long armor. And every time I would arrive, she always had, one of the quilts in progress, was just long arming. And I would just be fascinated by it. And I'm thinking, why can't I do that for myself? And so originally I thought, I'll just do it for myself. And I, researched for 2 years before I landed on APQS, and finally bought one for myself. And oh my gosh, it was a toy to play with. I was so excited that, and so kept playing with it. And I'm in love with it. Yeah, it's just, I wake up every day knowing, I can do something different. You never know what to expect, or with the quilting, with each quilt, there's always something different. Or customer will call and say, I hope you didn't start yet. I think I've changed my mind. No, we haven't started. So I have a few that are like that. So I just truly enjoy, and especially my favorite is looking at everybody else's quilt. They're all beautiful. So
Right.
yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And it's, what really gets me is when people come in, don't look at my mistakes, don't do this, don't do that. And it's like, we're all quilters in our hearts. If you look at it, it's beautiful. I'm not going to even be looking at it. I'm just here to finish the quilt for you.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's beautiful as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're calm.
Right. We're just bringing out the beauty in the piecing.
Right.
For sure. I
Yeah.
mean, we get to be a part of this journey with them, which is so cool.
Yeah. I like that we're part of their journey. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 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 And it's an honor. I mean, every quilt that comes in here, it's an honor. Right. When I watch my renters that we get to have, since Angela and I have the rental program, we get to watch them finish their whole quilt themselves when they might not have that opportunity if we didn't have this rental program.
Right.
So
yeah. And it's just, I mean, I get to play all day. That's what I love. And if I'm away from it for too long, I'm like, oh, I need to walk home, please. Somebody have an arm. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Because while I was up at, being with my mom in the past, when she had to have her surgery, she could see, that I was just like, and she goes, you need your long arm. I'm like, yes, I do. She goes, but you're staying with me. I'm like, that's not a problem.
That's so awesome. Well, I'm kind of glad to see what we can do for the hearing impaired community moving forward, and the hearing impaired quilting community.
Actually, it's hard of hearing, not hearing impaired.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just remembered that now because in the deaf and hard of hearing community, that word impaired just is a sore thing for them all. And so they act that it's just hard of hearing.
Hard of hearing. Perfect. Thank you for letting us know that.
Yeah.
Right. No bad intentions were made. It's just that, learn something new.
So,
Right.
JulieAnn, what features do you feel are important for someone who is hard of hearing to look at when they're looking for a long arm?
Mm-hmm.
Number one would be, the sound, we don't hear that. Like the light indicators, like the low bobbin indicator, I know it's not available on all of the APQS, but that's really helpful. And also the way that when I was testing all the long arm machines, and I tell you, I tested many for 2 years, and I kept sliding back to APQS, is the way it feels, that smooth glide. There were some that was not as smooth as the APQS machine. I mean, I could really tell a difference.
Mhm.
That was really critical for me. And then I saw that, the Millie had the light indicator for bobbins and I love how it will stop. And that was really a big thing for me too. But it's just that feel when you're long arming, the way that it just moved, a smooth feel that was really, really, there were some that was a little rough and kept going back to APQS. So yeah, and I love that it has a lifetime warranty. Um, I mean, and especially the staff that help, the help people. Wonderful. I would tell them that I am deaf and I know they do this for everyone else. It's FaceTime. And that was huge for me. And so the availability of everyone, the Facebook pages, everyone that's being available, just knowing that we have that help within fingers or through help desk, and you just tell them that you're deaf or hard of hearing, they will FaceTime you, and you don't have to be deaf or hard of hearing. They will FaceTime you.
They're just going to FaceTime you. Yeah.
They're pretty amazing.
Wonderful all the way around. So it just makes, because with the deaf and hard of hearing community, if we're not able to communicate and people are not available or not willing to work with us, that's stressful.
Oh, yeah.
So we want to eliminate that stress. And APQS, no worries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say we were talking about this earlier. The first time they had me call you, they didn't tell me you were deaf. And we were talking, and I talk really, really fast most of the time. And I'm just talking away, helping her with her quilt path. And she turned and I saw my words go across the TV at her house. And I was like, do I need to slow down? And she goes, that would be helpful. And I was like, oh no. Right. And then she asked me why I asked. And I said, I saw my words up on the screen behind you. And she shared with me that she was deaf. And I was like, okay, so I need to slow down. I'm talking too fast. I know that, right? Yeah, because I was just trying to solve the issue. So we don't always think about it either. But yeah, also, if you don't have an iPhone or an Apple product, because FaceTime is locked into that system, they will Skype, Facebook Messenger you, however they need to get you on a video chat.
Right.
But yeah.
Facebook Messenger for sure with me and JulieAnn.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, and they've I know they've used Skype. They use WhatsApp because we have a lot of people who are in Europe and Australia, and that is a more predominant app in those two areas. So they will try to do whatever they can to help anybody. They're awesome.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we will just have to sit down and go ahead.
One more thing that I wanted to mention that I did not share is that there are deaf who cannot use iPhones to talk, and they prefer to sign, so they would have a video phone number. So when you call the number, you will hear an operator, and they will ask you questions. And they will let you know that they will contact that person now, or they're calling that person, the deaf individual. And you just wait a few minutes. And if there's no answer, the operator would say, would you like to leave a message? So when you're leaving a message verbally, the interpreter is on the screen signing everything you're saying. Just go ahead, because a lot of people are like, wait a minute. Why is there an operator? So they hang up. I can't tell you how many times I've had people hang up on me. And because they are like shocked that there is a live operator asking, would you like to leave a message?
Yeah.
And so go ahead and leave that message. And then that individual who is deaf or hard of hearing will call you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they still say this is a relay call by any chance?
I'm sorry.
When the interpreters, when they're calling you, do they still say this is a deaf relay call?
I don't know how they do it these days, but I remember they will say this is a deaf relay call, and some will take the time to explain, And but there are individuals are like they hang up right away, like thinking that they've called the wrong number, which is, I mean, it's normal and it's understandable. So, but if you get a live interpreter, usually that means there is a person who is either deaf or hard of hearing.
I used to work for a big software company, and I did inbound tech support for them. And we would get deaf relay calls daily. I mean, many times a day, right? And it was always, they would tell us it was a deaf relay call and explain to us that they were not the person that we were helping, and that there was always going to be a delay, right? When they were talking to us. So they would ask us a question, we would tell them what we needed them to do. They would interpret that or send it, over the machine. This was before video chats and stuff. So it was all done on screens that they could type the words in on, basically. Think of it like a big pager, right? And then that person would have to then respond back to them. So those calls could take a really, really long time. And you weren't allowed to just chit chat with that interpreter at all. They were a little bit hard to do because of that, because you're used to trying to keep people calm and, not really entertained, but more calm when you're on the phone with them. And it was all business the whole time you were on that phone.
Yeah, and that was TTYs.
TTYs, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
And for those who wonder what a video phone is, just think of it as FaceTime, where, like that. But if you were to call me on your phone, I cannot see you, but the person I'm seeing on my video phone is the interpreter.
Right.
And the interpreter is right there just signing everything you say to me. And then I usually respond back speaking as I am now. But those who are ASL signers, and they will respond in ASL, and then the interpreter will turn around and voice what the individual who is deaf is saying in ASL to you. So
that's amazing.
The interpreter who is facilitating that communication between you as a person who can hear, and for me as a person who is deaf.
That is truly amazing.
Yeah, because now there's a new thing that's called Waggle, and I've had a few people do it, and my youngest is brave enough to use it now. And what that is I invite you to use that Waggle, it would be like what we are right now, and then the fourth screen would be the interpreter. So, like you guys could be talking and I'd be watching the interpreter, she would be signing, and then I would just voice back. And that's just me,
Wow, that's really cool too.
Yeah. So like I work with a couple of people through phone, and they want to see me. I don't know why that is, but they want to see me. So I'll see them, the interpreter's right there, and then it's just me. And I'm on my video phone talking with them. It's a really nice feature.
What would be some of you talked earlier about how sign language is different and the way we go to the store, or we say we're going to the store, I go, store I go. Are there certain words or lingo in the quilting world that are different?
We've all been here in the United States. We've all been trying to use the same sign, like this is block.
Okay.
It is block.
Right.
Sewing is sewing because you have the needle going down the seam. So this would be sewing. Very rare do I see anything that might be different from, other parts of the country to me or our area. Very, very rare. We all try to use the same sign because it's confusing enough when you're talking in like acronyms. We need to have that sign figured out. And so that's one of the things that I will be doing is, I might as well just say it, is doing a, what do you call it, where you have a list of words, like the quilting language, and like block, the word block, and then I sign block. And that, so like a library of ASL signs for quilting words.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I know it's called something, but it's just escaping my mind right now.
All I can think is a dictionary, and that's not probably what you're looking for.
Yeah. So, you know, for anyone that wants to learn. And
Right.
so, you know, it's there for fun.
Oh, yeah. So,
I think we should all learn. It'd be fun.
right. You also you made a pantograph that was sign language, the I love you, right?
Yeah, I did the I love you on it. And it was just a single I love you because the customer wants it. And I was like, how am I going to do this? But I am thankful. And let me see if I can reach it. For this thing is my Bible. And so I would look back and see what the words mean and read it, you know, and go back and try and do it. And then from the class you taught here, Kathy, that helped. And so I was able to make my one and only I love you. So, and I was like, oh, this is exciting. And so I just made it just a block. And so on that double wedding ring quilt that I did the work on.
Oh, yes.
One middle one that wanted that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the book she showed everybody, if you all are not familiar, is a fabulous book that Miss Angela Clark has developed over the years on Quilt Path. So
Yeah.
You've heard her talk about being an IT person. She is our Quilt Path angel for the industry here. Yes. So.
Yeah, what this means in case anybody is knowledgeable, you know, extra knowledgeable. Extra brains out there in the world of IT. So.
Oh, I love talking about when I talk about Angela and everybody, because I'm a buffoon around here sometimes. Like, Jacob, right before I came in here, is like, you need to slow down, Kathy, in doing your input here. You checked out the wrong person, and I'm supposed to be working on this machine, but you made it go away. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And I refer to Angela when I teach as she's the one that that speaks in code, can see in code, and can bring it to so this little person and this little brain can understand it. So
yeah. That book is always right next to me if I have a question.
Right.
I need to send you a new version.
We just got an update. Yeah. So there's some more stuff out there. So
yeah, I need to get that update.
Yeah. I'm still working on getting them in the door.
Yeah. All right.
I am. I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, JulieAnn, I was so thankful that you could come and hop on with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you for being flexible.
I just want to share if anyone has any questions or concerns and they're not sure, you know, or if there's a miscommunication, I mean, just feel free to contact me and I'm happy to help wherever.
Right. And we'll have that information in the description below the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
We'll also have a link to her YouTube channel.
Yes.
Right. Because we want her to be encouraged to do what she's saying she's going to do.
Yes. So we're very, very honored that you joined us today. Thank you, Miss JulieAnn, for enlightening all of and telling us that it's which way is the correct way to say things. And I appreciate that very much. So
you're welcome. And thank you for having me.
Awesome. We look forward to seeing you in the future when you have great things to share.
For sure.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.